title is I Cannot See Myself. From John 7, 1 through 13, we will come back to that title with a quote in a little bit. Chapter 7, as we continue to work our way through the book of John, step by step, opens with Jesus still in Galilee. Remember what has set the scene. He has fed the 5,000. The disciples left in the boat. He has walked on water. They had arrived at Capernaum, and the crowds follow. And so he has been teaching in the synagogue there. And Capernaum becomes home for him. It says that he's coming home. And so it's a place that on occasion when he pauses from his travels, that he goes and he spends a little time. So it is natural when we see him in this environment that he's with family, specifically his brothers. Jesus has siblings. Sometimes we forget that fact. Sometimes we do not connect the fact that Mary and Joseph continued to have children after Jesus. He is the oldest, but he has younger siblings. And so we see them in this exchange. And I want you to notice the exchange. Notice that they do not believe. John tells us that even though they are not professing it verbally, he tells us not even his brothers were believing in him in verse 5. The reason I point that out is because it colors and helps us understand the exchange that takes place right prior to that. They are goading him to go to Jerusalem. They are goading him to go to the feast, to show up and basically show out. Go do the things there that you're doing here. Go say the things there that you're saying here. We really don't believe in you. But if you're going to be who you claim you are, you have to take this show on the road. They're trying, if you remember what has happened earlier in the book of John, they are trying to get him to go into the lion's den. Remember, things are going well in the north. When he's fed the 5,000, they want to make him king. He has massive numbers that are following him around. 5,000 men at one time. And he's feeding all of that crowd, and they're still following him. They go to Capernaum with him. And so things are going well in that part of Israel, or the world. They're not going so well in the other end. Remember in the south, the last time he's in Jerusalem, what? They want to kill him. He has healed on the Sabbath. He has gotten on the wrong side of the religious leaders. They're out to get him. And so Jesus refuses to give in to their goading. He refuses to march into Jerusalem in a public way. And the text says that he says, no, I'm not going. But some translations will include the idea of I am not going now, or I am not going at this moment. That idea is understood because the fact that he does go just a tad later, and he goes privately. So basically what Jesus says to them when he says I'm not going is I'm not going publicly. I am not going with you. I am not going to enter in a family pack that draws attention. Why? Because the last time he was in Jerusalem, it did not go well. And so it is not the time. In fact, he tells them it's not my time. It is not time for him to draw attention to himself, end up in another public battle with the leaders of Israel, and cause a scene. So he says, not now. I'm not going to prove myself. This trip that I will ultimately make to Jerusalem for the feast, remember he's a good Jew, he's going to be where he's supposed to be, is not about taking my show on the road. It's not about proving myself to you. What these guys say to him is veiled, but it's very similar to what Satan was doing in the wilderness. If you're the Son of God, turn these stones to bread. If you're the Son of God, if you're the Son of God. So his brothers are saying, little brothers, remember, if you're really who you say you are, prove it. Prove it where it counts. Prove it in Jerusalem. Prove it in front of the crowds. Prove it in front of the leaders. But Jesus says the timing's not right. The timing's not right to make my entrance. We see that when he makes the triumphal entry later, God's timing. There's another key for us. Jesus does things on God's timing, on the Father's timing, with the plan. Timing's not right to make a scene. I'll do this in my time. When my Father tells me to, I will go and I will handle this way. But notice this part of the exchange. As for you, your time is always opportune. It is always time for you to get it. It has been your time for a while. What does he mean? What is he saying to them? He is the heart reader. He knows they don't believe. He's telling them, look, I am your brother. I have proven myself to you. You have seen the evidence. I have done these things in Capernaum. I've done these things at home. I have done these things in our synagogue. Remember later on in the ministry of Jesus, he's going to say, oh, Capernaum, if these things had been done in Nineveh and Sodom and Gomorrah and all these other places, they would have repented with ashes and sackcloth. He has proven himself to his hometown. And so he is challenging his brothers. He's reading their heart, and the theme we're going with today, he's basically holding up a mirror to them. Look at yourselves. See what you're missing. I've been doing all of this publicly right here in front of you. Why do you not believe? So we're going to pause just for a second, transition to our thought. Don't forget that I cannot see myself. That my role is limited to being the one who looks in the mirror. That is Jacques Rigaud. He was a French surrealist poet in the early 1900s. He ended up taking his own life, like so many of that mindset, and he spent years predicting that he would. And at the age of 30, he finally fulfills that, and it fulfills a lot of his poems and stuff. But he's making the point that as I am struggling with these suicidal thoughts, I'm really not seeing myself for who I am. I'm stuck looking in the mirror. Now think about it. Without a mirror, some reflective surface, without a camera, I have no idea what I look like. I cannot see myself. I have to look into something else that allows me to see a reflection of myself. So if no one tells me I have a booger in my nose and I don't have a mirror, I don't know. If nobody tells me I have broccoli in my teeth and I'm not looking in a mirror, I don't know. And Jesus spiritually knows that. And there is this section towards the end of, well, really in the middle of chapter 6, all the way through the middle of chapter 7, where he is trying to get the crowds and his brothers and his disciples to understand that. You cannot see yourselves. And one of my responsibilities as the Son of God, as the Messiah, as the Rabbi, is to reveal yourself, or is to reveal you to yourself. He knows that we have trouble seeing ourselves for who we really are. And it's old news when God walks in the garden in Genesis 3. Adam does not see himself for who he is. He's blaming Eve. He's blaming God. Eve does not see herself for who she is and her own faults. She's blaming the serpent, which God created. So she too is blaming God. As the heart reader, though, Jesus knows us. So there are times in Scripture as he's interacting with the crowds that he is telling them who they really are. And that's going to be vital at the end of the lesson for us. And in this context, he knows his brothers. And he's trying to get them to see for themselves. He's trying to be a mirror for them. He is trying to help them interpret their spiritual thought processes so that they come to believe. He's doing the same thing for the crowd in chapter 6. Remember when they show back up on the other side of the Sea of Galilee, what does he tell them? You're not here because you saw signs. You're here because I fed you. Let me show you who you really are. And we dealt with that one last week. He does it again in chapter 6 in verse 64. Looking out at the crowd right before verse 66 in that mass exodus, he says, I know some of you do not believe. They think they do. They're there because they think they believe. They do not see themselves for who they really are. And so Jesus has to reveal that to them. So he does it for them. He does it for his brothers. When he gets to Jerusalem finally in chapter 7, when he comes in private to attend the feast and then reveals himself at the feast, he is trying to do the same thing for the crowds. Watch what happens. Verse 12, John tells us that the crowds are mumbling. Before he makes his appearance, well, where's Jesus? You know, he's supposed to be this good Jew. He's this rabbi. He's this great guy who's always here. Where is he? And so the debate becomes, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? Is he leading people astray or is he leading people toward God? But notice they're trying to influence each other's opinion of Jesus. They're trying to sway each other. Verse 15, they think they know him. They think they know his motives. They think they know who he is. And they're basing part of their opinion on what? On the confrontation that he's had with the religious leaders. That he's healed on the Sabbath. And they're struggling with that. Verses 19 and 20, they only have part of the evidence. And he is calling them on that. You're not making your decisions based on the whole. You're making your decisions based on piecemeal evidence that somebody else is relating to you, the conversation that I had with them about the man that I healed. what the Sabbath really is. They're basing their understanding of everything based on tradition. And he's challenging them on that. You know, what's the law of Moses? He said, by the way, you didn't even get circumcision from Moses. You got it from the fathers. You got it all the way back to Abraham. But then there's laws that relate to it. And what? Child circumcised on the 8th day. He said, what do? If that 8th day falls on the Sabbath, do you circumcise that child? Absolutely. You just did a work. And now you're going to worry about whether or not I healed the man? You're trying to interpret everything about me based on your tradition. Then verse 30, they're jumping to conclusions before all the evidence is in. They're ready to kill him again. They're ready to drag him out of the city and stone him. And so the point is this. He is trying repeatedly in this section, about a third of the way through the book of John, to get mankind, to get them, to get us to see who we really are. He's trying to reveal the heart and the motive and ultimately the actions. He's trying to get this crowd to stop making up their minds based on what other people say. Oh, well, this person made a really good argument that he didn't come to the feast at the same time the rest of us did, so he's not a good guy. I'm going to move over to this argument. No, hey Jesus, why weren't you here at the beginning? Or were you here and we just not looking for the evidence? Or these people, oh, well, he's a really good guy. He's healed this person and he said this. He teaches way different than everybody else, so I'm going to slide over into this camp. He's trying to get them to quit doing that, to listen to him. Remember the emphasis in chapter 6? It's about the Word, it's about the Word, it's about the Word. Number 2, he's trying to get them to stop making up their minds based on things that they think they know. Well, we've heard this rumor and we've heard that rumor and we think he's done this and the crowd say he's done that. What have you seen for yourselves? He's trying to get them to stop making up their minds based on tradition. Just because you've done it that way all your life doesn't mean it was right when you were doing it that way, and it doesn't mean it's right today. He's specifically addressing, again, their Sabbath laws. Stop making up your minds based on a portion of the evidence. Have you heard everything I've said? Have you seen every work that I've performed? Do you understand why I do them? We need Jesus to really see ourselves. Humanity as a whole needs Jesus to really see ourselves. We're just not good at it. And so we need Him to point out the good, and we see Him do that in Scripture when He's amazed by somebody's faith. When He points out the woman with the issue of blood and the faith that she had to reach out and touch Him, He reveals that. But He also reveals the bad, and He's doing it with His brothers. You don't believe in me. You're not getting it. What's wrong with you? We need the Word. We need the mirror, in a sense, that God has written that reveals humanity to us. So that we see, what was that I was talking about in Bible class this morning? We need something that reveals to us, John 2 and verse 16, that everything boils down to the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and pride of life. So that I have a formula that I know Satan is coming after me in one of these 3 ways. I need to know that about myself. We need each other. The same way, if I don't have a mirror, I need somebody to tell me I have broccoli in my teeth. We need each other to see ourselves. Have you ever noticed the amount of emphasis God puts on us taking care of each other? Of us bearing one another's burdens, because sometimes we don't see our own burdens, or pointing out sin. If a brother is caught in a trespass, go to him with the right attitude, and the right mindset to help him see. The story of David. David could not even see himself in Nathan's parable until Nathan says, "You're the man." Am I better than David? Not in my humanity. I may be in some ways, but I'm not going to be in others. Because we just don't see it. We want to overlook our flaws and emphasize our good things. The Ethiopian eunuch. He's reading from the book of Isaiah, and he asks, who is he talking about? And yes, that is an appropriate question, but he also fails until it's explained to him, until Philip does, that he's supposed to be seeing himself in this story too. That it's his transgressions that put that man there. That he's being abused because of the Ethiopian eunuch's sin. And so Philip had to get in the chariot and explain it to him. Saul of Tarsus. He is destroying the church and lashing out at Jesus. I'm the one you're persecuting, Saul. And he cannot see himself until Jesus points it out. In Matthew chapter 13, Jesus describes the crowd and basically describes humanity as a whole as seeing without seeing and hearing without hearing. We need help. We need help to get past the tradition. We need help to get past our tendency to jump to conclusions or to not examine all the evidence. We need to see it, and then sometimes we need somebody to explain it to us. We need help seeing ourselves, so God wrote us a book that reveals humanity. And when I learn to take it personally, when I read it as it's written to me rather than thinking it's written to Marty, I can begin to see myself. But if I do not do that and I go read it, I see Marty in it. Or I see Ed in it. We have to understand that book, yes, it points out flaws and goodness in all of humanity, but he's writing to me as well. And yet I go to the book and sometimes fail to see myself. And here's the key. It's not the book's fault. It's not the mirror's fault. It's my fault. What did I take with me when I went to see myself? What preconceived notions did I have? What was I trying to prove rather than allowing God to talk to me as He intended it? So sometimes we need help. Jim Parker, a friend of mine for years and years and years. He's retired now. His health no longer allows him to preach full time. Was a tremendous storyteller in the pulpit. And one day he told the story of the conversion of his best friend. And Jim said, I had been studying with him for an extended time. And he said, we had talked about the role of women, and we had talked about the organization of the church, and we had talked about instrumental music, and we had begun to talk about the process of salvation, the plan of the gospel and the plan of salvation. And he said, there came a point where my friend looked at me and he said, you think I'm lost, don't you? And Jim said, yes. Sometimes we're lost and we do not know it. And if someone does not love me enough to tell me, I continue to not see it because I'm convinced otherwise. And so I go to the book and I pick out the parts that tell me I'm good. I pick out the parts that tell me what I want to hear. And I fit those parts, and so I ignore the ones that make me uncomfortable. Sometimes we have to look at each other and say, your soul's in danger, or you're lost, or you need to do this. And we do it humbly, we do it with love, we do it kindly, but we do it because we love. We are so afraid, and we spent a lot of time this morning talking to our teenagers about, when I asked them a question about their week, I then went back and asked them about their spiritual condition and things that they might be struggling with. And a couple opened up. And so we began to talk about how those things can lead us to the next step. How they can be triggers that cause us to act the way we should not act, or whatever. And we were talking about social media and how it becomes a black hole, and we were talking about the image that we present. Well, one of the things I didn't get to, Austin, that I should have, and you and I talked about it later, is we live in a culture where everybody's offended by everything. We're not allowed to tell the truth. We're not allowed to address sin. And so we're scared. And so we were challenging them. We were telling them, look, we do this because we love you. We do this because we've seen teenagers lose their way. We're doing this because we want to help you. We're not being overly hard on you to be overly hard on you. We're being overly hard on you to help you. And in our world, sometimes that doesn't go over well. And so rather than hurt someone's feelings, and this will break your heart if you really realize it, at the fear of hurting somebody's feelings, we are willing to stand and watch them walk or run toward the gates of hell, rather than saying, you need to change your life. You need to obey the gospel. This is a sin issue. Unconditional love does not excuse sinful behavior or lostness, if that's a word. Unconditional love addresses the need that allow me to see myself and know where I'm lacking. Love tells the truth and helps me understand what we're seeing in the mirror. Now then, really quickly, so we get ready to close, go back to that quote. Don't forget that I cannot see myself. My role is limited to being the one who looks in the mirror. So, what? I have never seen myself. I can turn all day long and try to catch a glimpse of my face, and it's not happening. Even with cameras, mirrors, and the back of a spoon when you're on a date and your date went to the bathroom and you're checking your teeth for broccoli, all you've ever seen is a reflection. I know that's philosophical, but you cannot see yourself. By the very act of looking in a mirror, the distance between you and the mirror and the distortions caused by light, you cannot truly see yourself. The act of taking a picture, and this doesn't mention the touch-ups and the filters that we all have on our phones now, but the act of taking a picture alone changes the image. You cannot see yourself. I never will see myself, but I can see myself through the Word. I can see myself through Jesus. I can see myself through your eyes. Even when we're looking at images of ourselves, as close as we can get, we have tendencies. Some of us tend to see only the flaws. There's this wrong with my hair, or this wrong with my eyes, or this wrong. Others tend to ignore the flaws, and you're the most beautiful person in the world to yourself. We need the truth spiritually. This isn't about what I look like physically. It's what I look like spiritually, and we need the truth. I can't ignore the flaws. I can't ignore the good things. I have to be able to see all of it in myself. So the trait that we're looking at in the life of Jesus is that we have to be people who help, lovingly help. Maybe rather than in parentheses, I should have put it in all caps and bold and underlined. But we have to help each other and the world see and hear. But the rest of the lesson is I have to be humble enough to accept the truth when I see it. I have to be humble enough that if Austin comes to me and says, this is a flaw that I see as you're mentoring these kids or as you're standing, I have to be willing to see it. And that means taking pride out of the way. That means taking my preconceived notions out of the way. That means taking self out of the way and being honest. So the trait is that we do this for those around us with the intention of all of us getting to heaven. But we do it as it's coming in our direction. We receive it the right way. Jesus' brothers missed it. Later on, finally, they're going to get it. But they don't get it all the way up to the cross. Crowds don't get it. When he held up the mirror in John 6, they just left. The crowds here in the temple, they do not get it. Before he leaves the temple at this feast, they are going to want to kill him again. Don't be the crowds. Don't be his brothers. See the truth and allow it to change you. If you need help seeing yourself this morning, if you have questions about what we've talked about, if you're having questions with Scripture like the eunuch did, let us help. But if you have come to realize who you are and that you're falling short, if you come to realize who you are and you're not a child of God, see what's revealed in the Word and act on it this morning as we stand and sing.